Hi, welcome back to Your Checkup. We are the patient education podcast where we bring conversations from the doctor's office to your ears. On this podcast, we try to bring medicine closer to its patients. I'm Ed Dulesky, a family medicine resident in the Philadelphia area.
And I'm Nicole Rufo. I'm a nurse.
And we are so excited that you were able to join us again today. What are you sipping on over there?
Another Olipop. We have cream soda flavor today.
Yep, I'm matching you this time.
I think this is a favorite of ours.
I'm
surprised that I like this flavor so much.
I like this flavor a lot. Before we get too far away, I have to tell them about
What?
the beer cheese pretzel nuggets.
Oh, yeah.
Is it a pretzel nugget?
Yeah.
Pretzel bite?
Pretzel bite, pretzel nugget.
Straight from heaven. Oh my God.
I made them homemade and the beer cheese. I think the beer cheese was good.
I don't
really know exactly what beer cheese is supposed to taste like, but I feel like it was good. So
It's supposed
I'll probably
to taste
make
like
it
that.
again.
Yeah, please. I can't wait until the next time. And if I'm lucky enough tonight, and if this goes well enough, we'll have fat rigatoni.
Ooh, we did get the fixins for fat rigatoni.
If I play my cards right, it might happen for me.
And we got the sausage at Whole Foods, so we should probably make it.
I think we need to. We really are. It's the Sunday before this episode will come out, and we really did enjoy ourselves an indulgent weekend.
Yeah, we did. I'm eating only salads for this whole week.
Unapologetically. I mean, we were listening to last week's episode, and you can hear the somber tone of it that we were just both beat.
Yeah.
And it was a long month of inpatient, but we're out.
We're out.
We're out.
We made it.
So now, I'm still going back to the hospital in the afternoons for this weird rotation, but we got to have a whole weekend together. We went out, had a beautiful dinner on Friday night.
It was so good.
It was delicious. The big takeaway, it was a, do I say, I don't want to upset the one particular person who probably won't be listening to this, but it was a Steven Starr restaurant, and it was called
So
The
good.
Love.
He never misses.
It was amazing. And I guess the one memorable, it was all great, but the brisket rigatoni was very unique.
Yeah. That was so good.
It was
And the risotto.
The risotto, and then it was a lavender Negroni with gin.
I know. I wish I got that.
Yeah, it was unlike anything I had tasted before, and it just spectacular. It was a great way to celebrate a hard month, and to thank you for everything that you've done for me to keep us going here. And then we went and celebrated my mom's birthday. We went to a brewery.
We did.
That was delicious. That was fun. Nice little farm-based brewery.
And then we got our favorite pizza after.
Well, this episode will actually be coming out on my mom's birthday, so happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
And yes, absolutely. We did get our favorite pizza from around the corner here. Paulie G's. No, we're not sponsored by any
giving
of
away
these.
free ads.
No, we're not sponsoring by these people at all. But we love the Hellboy Squared. Tell us what the Hellboy Squared is.
The Hellboy Squared is a Sicilian style pizza with pepperoni, but it's like the little tiny pepperoni, so they get really crispy. And then what's it called? Hot honey on top. And there's what's on the bottom. It's like sesame seeds on the bottom.
Sesame seeds on the bottom.
So good.
It's delicious. It's so worth it. So, I mean, we got a couple extra slices sitting in the fridge now. And in the background, we have the 2 TVs set up. Today, we got 2 football games. We got America's Game of the Week on and another game on top. Tom Brady is doing his commentating.
When you watched football on the Peloton.
Oh, that was so cool. I felt like I could run forever. That was awesome. And finally, somehow, the Giants got a win. And your Eagles did too. So everyone's happy here until 7 o'clock when the Mets play the Phillies, and who knows what's going to happen. Well, that was a big little introduction.
Yeah. Of our indulgent weekend.
For an indulgent weekend. All right. Well,
what else do we have? Anything else? We took Ollie on his first post-op stroller walk.
Oh, that
was good.
He loved being outside. It got us a little bit of extra time outside.
Yeah.
10-minute walk still. I'm going to try to get more during the day now that I'm like around now.
He has a father now.
Not being this absent father figure. So that's awesome. I can't wait to get back to doing that and be a part of the recovery. Road to recovery.
Oh my God.
All right. Should we get started?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. So what are we going to talk about today, Nick?
Today we're talking about the flu, all things flu. I know last time we introduced it as cold and flu season things and then only talked about RSV, but we were talking in the, colloquialism of cold and flu season.
Right.
And now we're actually going to talk about the flu.
Turns out it's a gigantic topic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not even just one web page on the CDC. It is several different web pages on the CDC. And there are a couple big take-home points that if you literally didn't listen to the episode any further than this, that you would know that it's preventable. Everything that we are about to talk about is preventable.
Mm-hmm.
You could stop listening right now if you wanted to, but I hope that you don't, because I hope that on this episode you'll learn something about yourself, a loved one, or
a neighbor with the flu.
And why don't we keep going? So the flu is a contagious respiratory illness caused by the influenza virus. And it can lead to mild illness, but it can also result in severe illness. And I'll have you know, also death in the right high-risk individual, which is a sad thing.
Yeah.
And the most important part of this is that it is preventable because there is a vaccine. What are the common symptoms that happen from the flu?
Common symptoms are really the same common symptoms as any virus. So a fever, which you may or may not have, cough, sore throat, runny nose. With the flu, you're really going to have more of the muscle aches and body aches, headache, fatigue, plus or minus vomiting.
Mm-hmm. And let's take the next topic, which is how contagious the flu is. So it's most contagious in the first 3 days of the illness, but honestly, you can infect other people up to 1 day before the symptoms develop and between 5 to 7 days after becoming sick. Now, I think a lot of people started to pay attention to this with COVID. Yeah.
It's they've never heard of getting a contagious virus before.
Right.
Before COVID.
Well, there was that time in COVID when people thought that it would take 14 days of being asymptomatic and then you can still get people sick, which I think eventually cooled off and became more like 5 days, which is very similar to what we have here with the flu. So after people are exposed, when did they usually get sick?
You usually start seeing symptoms about 2 days after you're exposed to the virus, but it can range anywhere from 1 to 4 days, which also kind of makes it hard because that's kind of, I think, probably most commonly how the flu or really any virus spreads, because you've been exposed to the virus, you have it, it's in your body, but you're not showing symptoms for maybe an entire day or 2 days.
Right.
So you're walking around, don't know that you're sick or have this virus. You go to work, you go to school, whatever, and then
boom.
Yeah.
Sick. And all the other people that you
yeah
possibly exposed. Which, I think a lot of people, we talked about earlier with how it relates to COVID. Sure.
All right. So speaking of being exposed to this virus, how is the flu transmitted from person to person?
So experts believe that it is spread from tiny droplets when people cough, sneeze, or talk. So whether that's in direct contact with someone who's doing that, or if there's a surface that it's on and then someone happens to touch that surface pretty quickly after, and then they're going and touching their eyes, touching their mouth, rubbing their nose, I guess maybe not the ears, but then boom, virus transmitted.
Boom. Who is most at risk for the flu?
So we'll talk a little bit later in the episode about how commonly it happens, but the people at highest risk are people 65 years and older. This is the most common group of people that's hospitalized. But thankfully, this is the least common group that it happens to. So that's an interesting little tidbit there. People with chronic conditions, and I'm thinking about the people with asthma, heart disease, diabetes, and other chronic conditions. People with a BMI over 40 or class 3 obesity.
All roads lead back to obesity.
All roads back to obesity. And children younger than 5 years of age.
Yeah.
So let's talk flu by the numbers. how often is the flu going around? How often is it infecting people?
All right. So the percent of people that get the flu, which this might be lowballing it just because of like underreporting, probably like under testing. Like I don't think that I've ever gotten tested for the flu when I'm sick,
Right.
and I'm sure that I've had it. So the CDC, as of 2018.
Well, that's like the most recent data that they have.
The most recent data that the CDC has found that about 8% of the U.S. population gets sick with the flu. And there's a whole demographic breakdown.
Right. So what is that in children?
So in kids from 0 to 17 years are 9.3% of children. And I would venture to say that this is the highest in our demographic breakdown because people take their kids to the doctor to get tested more than like they would take themselves. 8.8% in adults, which is ages 18 to 64, and then 65 years and older were 3.9%.
Yeah. So if you look at that, you'll notice that children under 18 are twice as likely to get symptomatic flu infections compared to adults 65 years and older. But later in the episode, we will see how adults 65 years and older are disproportionately affected in terms of severity, requiring hospitalization. I mean, I'd like to spend a little bit of time here sitting with these percentages.
Okay.
8% of the entire U.S. population. That's a lot of people.
And it's probably more.
We're going to get exact numbers and estimates from the CDC later in the episode. But even just like imagining how many people that is, 8% is a ton.
Yeah.
And there's even it changes year to year. And we're going to talk about what that looks like because 2020 was a very interesting year for the flu. So we definitely talked about how often people are usually affected by the flu. And when the CDC looks at this information, it turns out that there's actually a 2-year delay in obtaining this information. And so the most recent information that we have is from 2022, 2023. And can we talk a little bit about in that specific year, how often people were affected by the flu?
So in that flu season, we tallied, the CDC, about 31 million symptomatic cases. Out of those 31 million, 360,000 were hospitalized, and then about 21,000 deaths, which is also probably underreported.
Yes.
And then 21,000 deaths were tallied, which is probably underreported because it's not always listed as the cause of death on the death certificate.
Yep.
Which I feel like during the height of COVID, people were like very angry about that. Because that like wasn't happening.
It wasn't. I've like personally seen this. I took care of someone who passed away, and when you're submitting the death certificate form, I mean, you could like go up however many iterations you want of like why someone passed away. Like this little old lady unfortunately got flu, but she had so many other complications, and she had hypoxic respiratory failure, and that was listed as the cause of death. But everything started because she got the flu. And that's just one of probably thousands of incidents like this. I mean, you get these extremely vulnerable people who, we're going to talk about the vaccine, but maybe they got vaccinated and maybe they wouldn't have ended up in the hospital. It's so significant, and it just knocks people out. These like people who are living at home, who are more frail, who may not be able to take care of themselves very well, and then boom, they get the flu infection, and then they're knocked on their butts, and they're in the hospital. And this is a whole system issue because then more people are in the hospital, and people wonder why they can't be, like, why they're waiting in the emergency room getting care. So I'm going on a whole soapbox here, but it really just gets at the whole issue of like a lot of this is preventable. And it's not just about people not getting symptoms. This is herd immunity.
Yeah. It's funny how that works.
Yeah. So all that to say, there's actually great variability in the seasons of the flu. And there's a bunch of there's a little slide on the CDC website where they have different triangles over the course of the year. The base of the triangle is the people who were affected by the flu. Towards the top is the people who were hospitalized, and the tippy top is the people that died. They don't actually have any information or data from 2020 and 2021 because there was such minimal flu activity.
Because everyone was wearing a mask.
Because everyone was wearing a mask. Which is wild. But then that relates to 2017, 2018, where there was an estimated 51,000 flu-related deaths. So it changes from year to year. Who knows what holds this year? Hopefully.
Who knows?
Who knows? But as we're talking here, we're talking about deaths and hospitalizations. But the flu can be more than a headache, a fever, muscle aches. Can you take us through some of the complications that happen if someone gets the flu and things don't go their way?
So if someone already has any kind of chronic condition like asthma or any kind of heart disease, those chronic conditions are at high risk to just get worse. And then there are also the complications of any kind of like secondary infection, like a bacterial pneumonia, an ear infection, or a sinus infection.
And it all just stinks. Like it can get really bad. I think MRSA pneumonia is such a deadly complication of it. And like anytime someone's in the hospital, on high alert for that complication specifically. Nasty thing. Nasty. Okay, an homage to Love Island, if you will. That's right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't wait for next summer.
Well, we got
we have Love is Blind.
Love is Blind. I mean, like the true Love is Blind. Shout out to Brett and Lauren for our golden cups.
Oh yeah, Eddie's sister and very soon to be brother-in-law got us the gold cups that they use on Love is Blind. And they're unironically out on our bar cart.
Yeah, for the world to see.
But we only use them when we watch Love is Blind.
So I can't wait. We're figure out what cocktail we're going to have that night. All right. So before we talk about vaccination, we'll just do a quick brief note on treatment. Why don't you... Is there a treatment for the flu?
There is a treatment for the flu. You may have heard of Tamiflu. It's an antiviral. And not everyone with the flu is going to get this. There is a treatment. You may have heard of Tamiflu. Not everyone that has the flu will get Tamiflu. Typically within 2 days of having symptoms are when you're going to be a good candidate for it. So if you've already had symptoms for, like 4 or 5 days, you're probably not going to get it. And they will reduce your symptoms and shorten your illness by about a day. And it's important to note that any treatment, any antiviral treatment, does not replace the need to get vaccinated against the virus.
Excellent points. Sorry,
I know.
To step away there because I was getting a little chilly in here.
A little chilly.
So you mentioned vaccination there.
I did.
It's the single most important thing that we can do. Actually, I don't know if it's the, considering the mask wearing, I think that would be a useful thought experiment of like herd mask wearing versus vaccination.
Oh, yeah. All you anti-maskers and anti-vaxxers out there.
Killing me. I mean, it's...
People are like so hard against the flu vaccine.
They are, but to say it in plain English, it's safe and effective.
Yeah. And without getting canceled, that's all we'll say, I guess.
Yeah, that's not even a cancelable point.
Just for yourself. If you're like, oh, like I'm young, I'm healthy, I don't need to. But okay, are you hanging out with your 90-year-old grandmother who's probably going to die if she gets the flu? Or like, do you have a baby at home or in your family that you see that also could die if they got the flu?
Right.
Or a neighbor.
Don't
be out here killing your neighbors by giving them the flu.
For 18 to 64, it's just still very important for you to get. It's not just about you.
The world does not revolve around you. If anyone needed to hear it.
So the flu vaccination is safe and effective. It actually causes the body to develop antibodies about 2 weeks post-vaccination. That's an important point to sit with, and I want to sit there for a second.
Yeah.
I mean, say you get the vaccine, like the 3 days after, you're like, boom, oh my gosh, I feel sick. And you have the flu. That's not the vaccine's fault.
Yeah. Oh my God. I feel like I've heard that a lot. We'd be like, I got the flu vaccine. I got sick right after. Like, yeah, you probably did.
Probably.
Because it wasn't working yet.
Yeah. Well, who should get vaccinated?
Everyone 6 months and older.
Yeah. And I guess when to get vaccinated?
Ideally, you would get vaccinated between around September or October, kind of like the very beginning of cold and flu season.
So kind of exactly right now.
Yeah, we are due soon. I actually haven't gotten any like email or anything about that at work yet. Have you?
I also haven't. Interesting.
That way, get it maybe a little on the earlier side, gives it two-ish weeks to kick in, do what it's supposed to do, and then you'll be good.
Yeah. And I mean, for adults, your routine average adult, how many doses is the flu vaccine?
It's just 1 dose.
That's so convenient. Is there any population that's different and might require?
Yeah, some kids will get, or like younger infants will get it in 2 doses, and they'll get 1 and then 1 a month later.
Okay. So that's something that you should definitely ask your pediatrician or family medicine physician taking care of your young little one if they need 1 or 2, depending on where they are. And pregnant women should be vaccinated for the flu and should ask their doctor or whoever's taking care of them during the pregnancy when they should get the flu vaccine as well. So why is the flu vaccine needed yearly?
So the flu changes from year to year, and then the immunity wanes over time. So it's not like we all get the flu vaccine in our childhood and then we're good. And, you know, maybe like 10-ish, 15 years, you need a booster and whatever. Like it changes and it's different. So it needs to be done every year.
Yep. So other vaccines that we think about, it's been a little while since we've done a routine pediatric episode, but and we haven't quite gotten to these vaccines yet. But the MMR vaccine at age 1 and 4, they give lifetime immunity or near lifetime immunity. The hepatitis B vaccine after the initial series gives lifetime immunity, and that virus doesn't change. So those are different examples compared to the flu vaccine, like you just so eloquently explained.
How effective is the flu vaccine?
So this is also a challenging thing to capture, but I think a lot of people have tried. And so we have a few studies lined up here. And we'll start with the simplest ones that affect the most people. So it's been studied that vaccines for the flu vaccine can reduce the risk of flu-related doctor visits by 40 to 60%. And, you know, that can be an inconvenient thing, having to say, like, hey, I go to the doctor or go to the urgent care. It really can shoot a whole day for you, plus being sick. So if not just for anything else, it can reduce the amount that people go to the doctor. So that's one. In the 2019-2020 season, it was estimated that 100,000 hospitalizations were prevented due to the flu vaccine. So that's just, I mean, these big numbers can be, like, you can gawk over them and be like, oh my God, wow, it's so many. But it truly is such a relief on the whole system because it's not just the people with flu going to the hospital. Like we saw this in COVID that wasn't too long ago where all of these people with upper respiratory illnesses were going to the hospital. But also the people who normally go to the hospital because they have illnesses of any variety. So now it's just during flu season, this gets worse. It's a big stress on the system. Other studies show that there's a 26% lower risk of intensive care unit admission and a 31% lower risk of death among vaccinated individuals when it comes to the flu vaccine. And so all that to say, all these studies demonstrate decreased chances of going to the doctor, having to go to the hospital, having to go to the intensive care unit. So all in all, once again, this vaccine is safe and effective, and we will be getting it this year.
Yeah. And they're very accessible. I mean, for us, it's so easy because we both work in hospitals, so we get it while we're at work. But But they're very accessible. You don't even have to go to your doctor to
Nope.
get the flu shot. Like, you don't have to make a whole appointment and take a half day off of work or whatever. You can walk into a CVS or a Walgreens or, whatever kind of like minute clinic type thing, and they're free and get it. And it takes like 5 minutes.
Yep. And this isn't medical advice, but I recommend you get your flu vaccine this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Take your neighbor.
And take your neighbor or a loved one. Take yourself. I didn't think, well, I guess as a primary care doctor, I would, of course, get passionate about the flu vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any other thoughts or feelings about the flu vaccine or flu in general?
I mean, it's so preventable that it's like silly to not get the vaccine. And wash your hands a lot. You should also do that during cold and flu season.
Yeah.
Which sounds dumb and everyone says that, but
And just like avoid touching your face
yeah.
as well. And like, what if you're going to wear a mask? Like, I'm going to probably start wearing a mask at work at some point during the height of this, just to, I mean, I'm like visiting people. Like if I see someone with it and then I like go to the next room, like that's an issue. So might see me out there with one on, covering up this mug.
Good.
Children go to the hospital a lot for this too.
Yeah. And babies.
And babies.
A baby with the flu is kind of scary. Like if we ever have kids and like have one during like a newborn during cold and flu season.
Oh my God.
Like no one's coming to the house if you haven't had your flu shot.
Amen.
And waited 2 weeks.
And waited 2 weeks. All right. And I think that's a wrap. So I think Nikki's going to go make some fat rigatoni and I'm going to open a bottle of wine and pour her a glass.
Ooh.
Thank you once again for tuning in this week. Please check out our Instagram. Send us some fan mail. It's right there at the top link of wherever you're listening to the podcast. Send us an email if you so desire. And we're so grateful for all of our new listeners and our old listeners for coming back. And I hope you learned something today.
Loyal listener. We actually got some fan mail.
Oh, we
Was
did.
it last night or the night before? And we were actually able to reach out directly to that loyal listener.
We were, and we're very grateful that we were able to offer that service. And so hopefully today you were able to learn something about the flu for yourself, a loved one,
Or a neighbor with the flu. Or a neighbor who needs their flu shot and you can take them with you. Be a fun neighbor outing.
a fun neighbor outing, a block party of flu shots.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Oh my gosh, you know how they have like Botox parties? They should have flu shot parties.
They really should.
That's our next business idea.
A flu shot party.
Yeah.
See you later. Most importantly, stay healthy, my friends. Until next time, I'm Ed Dulesky.
I'm Nicola Rufo.
Thank you and goodbye.
Bye.
This information may provide a brief overview of diagnosis, treatment, and medications. It's not exhaustive and is a tool to help you understand potential options about your health. It doesn't cover all details about conditions, treatments, or medications for a specific person. This is not medical advice or an attempt to substitute medical advice. You should contact a healthcare provider for personalized guidance based on your unique circumstances. We explicitly disclaim any liability relating to the information given or its use. This content doesn't endorse any treatments or medications for a specific patient. Always talk to your healthcare provider for complete information tailored to you. In short, I'm not your doctor.
I am not your nurse.
And make sure you go get your own checkup with your own personal doctor.